Welcome to the Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health's monthly magazine, Meeting of the Minds. I'm Karen Zarcedias. In this month's Mental Health Minute, Facebook is offering suicide prevention services for veterans, active service members, and their families who are going through stressful times by connecting them to support communities and service organizations. Working with the Department of Veterans Affairs and Blue Star families, Facebook has created a lifeline within the site to connect individuals to local resources or immediate help. The lifeline includes a Veterans Crisis Line which will respond to someone in need of help over the phone, in an online chat, or in a text message. Help for veterans, active service members, and their families can be found on Facebook in the Help section. Hope, Wellness, and Recovery is our department's motto. With more about what DMH is up to, here's a message from our director, Dr. Marvin Southard.
Researchers in the 60s and 70s noticed that in Roseto, Pennsylvania, people live until their 80s and 90s and seem to die of nothing more than age-related diseases. First, they thought it might be genetics, but they tested people from a similar gene pool who lived in other areas of the U.S. Those living in other areas had a much different death rate. They thought it might be the Mediterranean diet. They thought it might be the aquifer. What protected the people in Roseto, Pennsylvania was a sense of community. In Roseto, people supported one another. There was a close network. People who were rich didn't flaunt their wealth, but supported those who had less. People who had less didn't feel that they were less than people who had more. And it turns out that that supportive community network ends up being a very protective factor for all kinds of diseases. People with those kind of protective factors live longer, live healthier, and live happier. The bottom line, being connected to other people and supporting them in a real community is the best thing we can do for our health and our mental health.
Thank you, Dr. Southard. We like to share stories and tips on wellness and recovery on the show. With more about this in our Walk the Talk segment, here's Kathleen Pache.
My guest today is Antoine Grace. After being traumatized at a young age, Antoine suffered 30 years of depression and substance abuse. He's experienced what it's like to be homeless and hear voices calling to him from the freeway. He's been in and out of prison for drug-related crimes, but his turning point finally came 3 years ago when he'd been 10 months sober and received a diagnosis for major depression and anxiety disorders. His road to recovery started at a residential program and continued when he became a peer counselor at the Client Run Center at San Fernando Valley Community Mental Health Center, Inc., where the motto is moving lives forward. Welcome, Antoine. It's great to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
After living on the street and abusing drugs for so many years, what was your bottom? What was a point where you said, this really has to stop?
Well, I believe when I went to prison the last time and I wanted to know what was wrong with me. I just, in and out of prison and being very, very dysfunctional, I wanted to know what was wrong with me, and I wanted to find out. So I spoke to a psychiatrist while I was in prison. My diagnosis was depression and major and anxiety. Had for years, from like age 18, always felt kind of different, and I didn't know what it was, So speaking to the psychiatrist, I learned a lot about myself and was able to move forward from there. It was talk therapy and then medication.
So from the residential program, you moved on to San Fernando Valley, Inc., and then you found the Client Run Center. And how has that affected your recovery?
Well, it's actually given me an opportunity to, through the peer counseling program, to know myself, to get to know myself and deal with a lot of the problems that I had been hiding for so long by using drugs and self-medicating and so forth. Cornerstone, which is one of San Fernando Valley Community Mental Health programs, one of their 38 programs that they do have, was very instrumental in moving my life forward. They gave me a safe place to live. They helped me with my clothing and all of my basic needs. And
Right.
From there, I went on to the Client Run Center, where I took the peer counseling program. And the program there was quite instrumental in building my self-confidence and giving me a place in life, it seemed.
So after all those years, what did you find out about yourself?
Well, I actually found out that I'm a good person, that I am a good person, and there was no reason for me to be down on myself and not like myself because of things that happened in my past. They weren't my fault. They happened as a child. I was taken advantage of, and these things just happened. It wasn't my fault, and I used self-medicated to repress those things, And I think that also I felt guilty about not having a dad in my home, and used drugs and alcohol as well to hide those issues and so forth too.
Right. I think you're a good example of it's never too late to get help because
Absolutely.
of all the years. And look at you now. You look great. And there is a job center,
Yes,
right?
it is.
Tell me about that at the CRC.
Yeah, I'd like to say, yeah, you're right. It's never too late. I'm 61 years old now, and I had given up on myself a while back, but like I said, the center gave me that get up and go. And at the center, they have what they call a job bank, which when you graduate from the peer counseling, you go into the job bank, and it teaches you skills, job skills. Coming to work on time, how you perform with other employees and so forth.
What do you think is the most important thing for you about recovery?
Well, actually, the most important thing for me was finally getting a diagnosis and understanding why I was the way I was. Because prior to that, not understanding why I was self-medicating, why I felt so bad about myself. I mean, I had even tried suicide at one time, and it was all because of repressed feelings, And once I was able to understand those things and bring them to the forefront, then I felt good about myself at that point.
You could really come up with a plan and follow that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And how important is it for you or people in recovery to help other people?
Absolutely. It's that's my main goal, is to help other people in recovery that have similar diagnosis or drug abuse problems. I'm actually going to college now to be a
Great.
substance abuse counselor and work with people with mental health, because I being in that peer class has taught me that if I can relate to maybe just one person that your life is worthwhile, you have value in your life, then my life is worthwhile too.
Definitely. Well, I'm so glad you came today, and I'm so glad you were able to talk about this with us. Thank you for being on Walk the Talk.
Thank you very much for having me.
Back to Karen.
Thank you, Kathleen. And that's the show for this month's edition of Meeting of the Minds. To learn more about the Department of Mental Health and for more information about DMH's programs and resources, you can always visit the website anytime at dmh.lacounty.gov. You can also follow us on our Facebook page and watch our Profiles of Hope videos and PSAs on YouTube. Just search for the Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health, or LAC DMH. And if you or someone you know is in need of help, you can call our 24/7 access line at 1-800-854-7771. That's 1-800-854-7771. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again soon.